George Washington. A quiet beginning. Born in 1732 on a quiet Virginia plantation, George Washington entered a world shaped by land, labor, and loss. His father died young, forcing responsibility upon him before childhood fully faded. Without formal schooling, he learned through experience, observation, and discipline. Life near the frontier taught endurance, restraint, and careful leadership. These early years quietly forged the steady man history would later follow. Long before fame, silence and patience became his earliest teach. Education and formative years. George Washington's education unfolded beyond classrooms, shaped by mentors, books, and hard-earned experience. He studied mathematics, surveying, and geography, skills vital on the American frontier. Reading history and military strategy refined his judgment. Early work as a surveyor taught precision and patience. These formative years built quiet confidence, preparing him for leadership long before command. Each lesson absorbed in youth strengthened resolve, shaping a leader who learned work. Early military experience. Washington's first military steps came on the wild American frontier, where danger was constant. As a young officer, he faced harsh terrain, limited supplies, and sudden conflict. Mistakes brought hard lessons, shaping humility and resolve. He learned command through failure as much as success. These early trials forged discipline, courage, and respect for responsibility. Long before revolution, experience taught him restraint, patience, and the cost of command under pressure, always watching. The French and Indian War. The French and Indian War tested Washington in chaos and uncertainty. Young and inexperienced, he led men into unfamiliar forests and fragile alliances. Defeat taught him caution, while survival taught endurance. He witnessed the cost of imperial rivalry on colonial land. These lessons shaped a commander who learned to value patience, preparation, and responsibility. From failure he gained foresight, learning leadership grows slowly through hardship, observation, and discipline. Always learning. Plantation life and political awakening. Life at Mount Vernon immersed Washington in responsibility, land management, and human complexity. Running a vast plantation sharpened discipline, order, and long-term thinking. Economic pressures exposed him to British control and colonial limits. Public service in Virginia's assembly awakened political awareness. Quiet frustration grew into resolve, as leadership slowly shifted from land to liberty. Rise to revolutionary leadership. As tensions rose, Washington's reputation for steadiness set him apart. Years of military hardship earned trust among colonial leaders. He spoke little but carried authority shaped by experience. When rebellion seemed inevitable, unity demanded a figure of balance. Washington emerged not through ambition, but through duty. The American Revolution. The American Revolution tested Washington beyond battlefield skill. He led an army plagued by shortages, doubt, and defeat. Victory came not through constant triumph, but endurance. Holding the army together became his greatest achievement. Through patience and resolve, he transformed rebellion into independence. Victory and a rare choice. Victory brought Washington unmatched power and public devotion across the young nation. The army looked to him as a king in all but name, expecting authority to continue. Instead, he chose resignation over rule, rejecting crowns and personal ambition. By surrendering command to Congress, he stunned Europe and reshaped history. Power was laid aside deliberately, and a fragile republic breathed its first quiet, hopeful breath that echoed forward into time and memory for generations to come forever. Shaping a new nation. After the war, the nation struggled under weak unity and uncertain direction. Washington's presence gave confidence to fragile institutions. He presided over the Constitutional Convention with restraint and authority. His support helped transform debate into agreement. In silence and balance, he helped shape a nation before leading it. First President. Reluctantly, George Washington accepted the presidency as an act of duty, not desire, aware the nation watched his every step. Every action set precedent, for no roadmap existed, and even silence carried meaning. He balanced authority with restraint, shaping executive power without monarchy. Calm leadership unified divided states under fragile laws. His presidency defined what Republican leadership could be for generations to follow, quietly and firmly. Setting standards that still guide nations. Domestic policy. Washington's domestic policies focused on stability in a fragile republic. He supported a strong federal government to unite the states. Economic plans strengthened credit, trade, and national authority. He balanced regional interests with careful compromise. Through restraint and order, he proved democracy could govern itself without chaos. Foreign policy. Washington's foreign policy sought peace in a dangerous world of empires. He believed the young nation needed time to grow, not wars to fight. Neutrality became his guiding principle amid European conflict. Treaties were tools of survival, not submission. By avoiding permanent alliances, he protected independence and gave the republic space to strengthen itself quietly. Personal character. Washington's character was marked by restraint, discipline, and quiet strength. He valued honor over popularity and duty over personal gain. Emotion rarely guided him, principle always did. He listened more than he spoke, earning trust through consistency. In self-control and humility, he embodied leadership rooted not in power, but character. Private life. Away from public life, Washington found calm in routine and reflection. Mount Vernon was a place of order, gardens, and careful management. He valued privacy, correspondence, and quiet evenings by the fire. Marriage brought partnership, not passion, but deep mutual respect. In solitude, he balanced the burdens of history with the simple need for peace. Slavery and contradictions. Washington lived with deep contradictions at the heart of his legacy. As a plantation owner, he depended on enslaved labor while speaking of liberty. Over time, his views quietly shifted, marked by discomfort and reflection. He chose gradual moral action over public declaration. In death, he freed his slaves, revealing a conscience shaped by conflict, growth, and unresolved truth. Farewell Address. In his farewell address, Washington spoke as a guardian, not a ruler. He warned against division, political extremes, and blind loyalty to parties. Foreign entanglements, he cautioned, could endanger independence. Unity, virtue, and restraint were his final lessons. Stepping away once more, he proved true power lies in knowing when to leave. Death and national mourning. Washington's death in 1799 halted the young nation in shared grief. Church bells rang, ships lowered flags, and cities fell silent. Across America and Europe, he was mourned as more than a leader. He had become a symbol of restraint, sacrifice, and Republican virtue. In mourning him, the nation honored the ideals he lived, served, and quietly protected. Historical interpretation. Historians view Washington as both a product of his time and a figure who rose above it. Some praise his restraint, others examine his contradictions and limits. Interpretations shift as values change, yet his influence remains central. He is remembered less for brilliance than for balance and self-control. Across centuries, history sees him as the man who knew when to act and when to step aside. Symbolism and legacy. Washington became more than a man, he became a symbol of measured power. He represented unity without tyranny, authority without excess. Later generations shaped myths around his restraint and integrity. Monuments, stories, and traditions carried his image forward. His true legacy lies not in perfection, but in setting limits, proving leadership could serve ideals rather than rule over them. Global influence. Washington's leadership echoed far beyond America's borders. Revolutionaries and reformers worldwide studied his restraint after victory. Kings were astonished by a general who surrendered power willingly. His example inspired emerging republics and constitutional movements. Across continents, he became proof that authority could exist without tyranny, shaping global ideas of leadership and freedom. Educational significance. Washington's life is studied as a foundation of civic leadership. Students learn how restraint shaped power in a new republic. His choices illustrate responsibility, sacrifice, and long-term vision. Education uses his story to explore democracy's fragile beginnings. Through history lessons, Washington remains a guide for understanding leadership, ethics, and the cost of nation-building across generations. Enduring questions. Washington's life leaves questions that still challenge modern minds. Can power be held without corruption, and authority exercised with restraint? Do moral compromises erase achievements or explain human limits? Was greatness found in action, or in what he refused to become? These enduring questions keep Washington alive in debate, reminding history that leadership is never simple, final, or free from doubt. Final reflection. George Washington's story is not one of perfection, but of restraint. He rose when needed and stepped away when power tempted. His strength lay in choosing limits over ambition. Through silence, patience, and resolve, he shaped a nation's character. In the end, his greatest legacy was proving that leadership could serve ideals rather than the self. Closing note. This journey through Washington's life ends where reflection begins. His story moves quietly, shaped by choice rather than spectacle. From beginnings to farewell, restraint guided every step. History remembers battles and offices, but meaning lies deeper. In listening closely, we hear a lesson: true greatness often speaks softly, endures patiently, and leaves space for those who follow to continue the unfinished work of a nation still learning itself. Media and public memory. Media shaped Washington into legend as much as memory preserved him. Paintings, books, films, and classrooms refined his image over centuries. Complexity softened into symbolism for national unity. Public memory favored restraint, dignity, and moral authority. Between myth and man, Washington endures as a carefully remembered figure, shaped by storytelling as much as history itself. Cultural representation. Washington appears across culture as hero, symbol, and subject of interpretation. Art and literature elevate his restraint into near-mythic virtue. Plays, films, and textbooks simplify a complex man for meaning. Each era reshapes him to reflect its values and needs. Through culture, Washington lives on, not fixed in truth, but continually reimagined as a mirror of national ideals. Impact on governance. Washington's leadership shaped how governance would function in a republic. He defined the balance between authority and accountability. Presidential limits, peaceful transitions, and civilian control became norms. His restraint gave institutions room to grow stronger than individuals. By governing carefully, he ensured power would belong to laws, not to one man. Military legacy. Washington's military legacy rests on endurance rather than constant victory. He understood survival mattered more than dramatic triumph. By preserving the army, he preserved the revolution itself. He established civilian control over military power. His example shaped an American tradition where armies serve the nation, not rule it. Economic foundations. Washington helped lay economic foundations for a fragile republic. Stability, credit, and trust were treated as national priorities. Policies encouraged commerce, taxation, and federal authority. Agriculture and trade were balanced against growing industry. By supporting structured finance, he helped ensure independence was not only political, but economically sustainable. Relationship with Congress. Washington's relationship with Congress was shaped by respect and careful distance. He consulted lawmakers but guarded executive independence. Disagreement existed, yet confrontation was rare. He believed balance, not dominance, preserved Republican government. Through restraint and precedent, he defined cooperation between branches, ensuring authority flowed through institutions rather than personal power. Religion and belief. Washington's religious belief was marked by quiet faith rather than open doctrine. He valued moral order, providence, and personal responsibility. Public worship mattered to him as a source of unity, not division. He avoided religious extremes, respecting diverse beliefs. For Washington, faith guided character and conduct, shaping leadership without dominating it. International perception. Abroad, Washington was viewed with rare admiration and curiosity. European leaders expected a conqueror, but saw restraint instead. His refusal of power shocked monarchies and philosophers alike. He became a symbol of republican virtue beyond America. Internationally, Washington stood as proof that leadership could command respect without crowns, conquest, or inherited authority. Long-term influence. Washington's influence extended far beyond his lifetime and office. Precedents he set shaped presidencies, laws, and civic expectations. His restraint normalized peaceful transitions of power. Institutions grew stronger by following his example, not his authority. Over time, his choices embedded stability into the nation's political culture, guiding democracy through crises long after his voice fell silent. Lessons for the future. Washington's life offers lessons that reach beyond history. Power demands restraint, especially when authority is greatest. Leadership is tested not by ambition, but by self-control. Institutions must outlast individuals to protect freedom. For the future, his example reminds nations that strength lies in limits, patience, and the courage to place principles above personal legacy. Continuing relevance. Washington remains relevant because the challenges he faced never vanished. Division, power, and responsibility still test modern leadership. His example offers restraint in an age of excess. He reminds societies that unity requires patience, not force. Across generations, Washington endures as a standard against which leadership is measured, questioned, and continually redefined in a world still learning how to govern itself wisely. Closing thought. Washington's life closes not with certainty, but reflection. He did not solve every contradiction, nor escape his time. Instead, he chose restraint when power invited excess. His legacy asks each generation to define leadership anew. In remembering him, we are reminded that history's greatest influence often lies not in command, but in the wisdom to step back and let ideals endure beyond the individual.
For more powerful stories from history, subscribe to Legacy by MAO. Your support truly matters.